chances scuppered by a yellow flag. But it's great to see the likes of Robert Schwartzman, who's come into this series knowing full well that every point matters, and it's that mature head that Formula One teams will be looking for.
Yeah, absolutely, looking for that reliability, looking to be able to deliver in tough conditions. That's exactly what we've got today. Sean Kaleo, who in the previous guise of this championship, back when it was known as GP2, finished second here to Mitch Evans in another absolutely wild race where he was leading, spun at turn 3, and it was Mitch Evans in the Campos who took victory there. We've been racing here in the second tier since this track returned to the Formula One bill back in 2014. Christian Lundgaard last year in Formula 3 didn't have the easiest of times, but he did claim 1 win and 2 pole positions on his way to 6th in the eventual standings. Our pole sitter, just to tell you his information, 9th in the standings last year, but loving the feel of these 18-inch wheels.
Which I'm still getting used to be honest.
I think we all are.
Yeah, we're all still getting used to it, as are the drivers. They've mentioned that it's not as much of a...
Yeah, I don't see how it can clear off. It's so bad when you're out there. We can see on Trent, mate, how much spray there is and how much standing water is we can see on Trent, to be honest. I'm P3 and I can't even see P2.
Well, if Callum Ilott hadn't already confirmed that it's wet by how wet he is and drenched he is...
It's given us another metric.
Yeah, he absolutely has, and we've been trying to decipher weather graphs the entire day, haven't we, Alex? And we haven't really got that far. So thankfully we've got the likes of Callum Ilott to tell us.
Yeah, you can hear the frustration in his voice as well, because he's a driver on the crest of a wave. Unfortunately, he's been greeted by more in the middle sector, so he is just trying to gather it all together. I was looking forward to seeing the battle rejoined between the two UNI Virtuosi cars. No official word from race control. We've heard drivers say that they can't race in the past and then race control send them out. It clears up and we get a cracker. So we hope that that will still be the case. If you're just switching on, you've missed nothing. Good news. We have yet to run a lap that counts towards the total. We ran a few laps behind the safety car, too wet, and with cars struggling with visibility and with plenty of standing water, we've had the red flag chucked our way. We are 8 minutes to 6 local time here, and that is the definite. Well, it's all a problem part of the racetrack right now, but that is a particularly difficult part of the racetrack for standing water.
It absolutely is, and us as motorsport fans, obviously it's a red flag and we're not particularly happy to see it, but we are used to waiting for motorsport these days, so this will feel like an extremely small wait compared to the many months that we've had to put motorsport on hold. But the rain is still coming down, and as you say, that middle sector in particular is hugely treacherous, and I imagine we'll see the medical car, safety car going around to check the track conditions again. But the visibility, that's the problem. And there's the weather radar that we've been trying so hard to work out what the green, yellow, orange, blue mean. But we all know basically it means rain.
Yeah, we're looking to avoid the yellow, but right now, let's just have a look. Is it any lighter? It appears to be exactly the same, doesn't it, down there in the pit lane. Understandably, Dam's going to work with another Williams Jr. there. You see the logo on the side of the car. They're going to work because he reported that he'd gone into the safe mode, and thankfully for him, the red flag came out at that exact moment.
Even his car thought it was too treacherous, so it went into safe mode. Yeah, it's not the ideal situation, but obviously with the fact that he could come in, the team can work on the car and try and fix that problem. It's not ideal, for sure, but it seems as though the conditions aren't changing as we take a look at Luca Chiotto, who again will be frustrated after such a torrid time last weekend. He had an opportunity to really put some decent points on the board.
You can see the rain gathering on his front wing there. On that theme, Matt, we've got Yuki Tsunoda on pole position, but we've got Guan Yu Zhou in second place, and he was really honest about last week and how disappointed he was. He said it hurt so much last week. I was excited to get back into the seat. Everything on Saturday was going my way until I had the technical issue and I had to retire from that race. That meant coming out of the whole weekend without any points in the races, so I lost quite a lot for that. It was lucky that we had back-to-back races so I could put that weekend behind me and focus on this weekend. He'll be thinking, I had the pace, I got has the problem, his teammate wins the race, He then gets blocked in qualifying, can't do anything with the pace, looked good enough for pole in the first sector at least, had to bail out on the lap. And now we've got a red flag and unraceable conditions, so it's not quite going. Maybe the luck will change for Guan Yu Zhou, but it's not gone his way at the start of this 2020 season.
Whether it's called the Austria Grand Prix, the Austrian Grand Prix, the Styrian Grand Prix, I think that whatever it's called, he'll definitely be happy to see the back of this place. But it's not over yet. We still have hopefully a couple of races in Formula 2 if the weather plays good for us. But yeah, as you say, it is difficult to take as a driver that was dominating the first race, had a problem. And then the beauty about Formula 2 is that if you're not in that top 8, you're then starting at the back again if you have a problem. So the difficulties continued for Zhou as we take a look at him right now. Currently 11th in the championship with 4 points. And that's going to hurt.
That's for the pole position that he scored last week. His highest finish in Formula 2 in his rookie season was 2nd place. He was on the podium on 5 occasions last year. Let's hear from his team.
When do you think they're just going to say, okay, I think it's enough, I don't think it's going to change? I think reasonably soon, to be honest, mate, because we will run out of light at some point, and it's reasonably dark already, so...
Callum Mylar asked the question, so we don't have to. It's basically the third commentator.
I want a 24/7 feed to Callum Mylar's team radio. It's brilliant. He wants to be a comedian. Feel free.
Well, he's expecting things to be cooled off. He does raise the point of how long do we wait here? Because basically, it's worth saying, the one thing we have learned today is that the weather forecasting that they have down there in the pit lane, very, very accurate indeed. So they will know whether there is a window appearing, and I think in the next 5 minutes or so, they're going to have to trust the information in front of them, and if it clears up and the weather that appeared to be on the way doesn't appear, they'll just have to go, well, we had to take the decision. The engineer on the radio making the point there that we could easily run out of light.
Exactly, and the cameras don't really do it justice as to how dark that will be on the track and from the driver's point of view.
And that's because we have a top team making sure that it always looks at the right level of brightness.
It's amazing. I had a tour and it's incredible the amount of colour correctors. I never even knew this sort of stuff, but it's amazing to see, and yeah, it's much clearer for us than it will be for the drivers in the point of view of the cockpit. So no wonder they're asking the question about visibility and light.
Race Control have a message for us. It says there will be a 10-minute warning before the pit lane exit opens. More filling that. Good news.
Love a 10-minute warning.
What a weekend for you to have your first commentary. Okay, so let's talk about why you're in the commentary box with us this weekend. The first part of this year, for so long, has been dominated by virtual racing, by esports. That's your background. We're connecting the dots today from the virtual world to the real world. And what have you made, from your point of view, from what we saw at the first half of the year, an explosion in the interest of esports?
Well, firstly, I didn't think my debut commentary would be filling red flags for most of it. I'm not going to lie to you. But in terms of the esports world, it's been amazing to see. Obviously, we've been going through this global pandemic, which has been awful. But the thing is that the one shining light has been esports, and seeing the Formula 1 drivers, Formula 2 drivers having their own championship as well within the virtual world. And it's just been great to thrust it into the forefront. It will never replace motorsport, but that's not what it's there for. It's to be an accompaniment. And the fact that it's been there as a kind of a filler, it's been really nice. Filler is a terrible word because that's what we've been doing most of the time today. But it's been amazing, and I think the drivers have really enjoyed it as well. That they've been open about it and said, I didn't think I'd have this much fun. And I hope it continues, because the virtual world is a lovely filler, especially for drivers coming through that can't afford the huge money that it takes to get to the top leagues.
Absolutely, and it was great to be a part of. Plenty in the field were part of it as well, both for F2 and in the virtual Grand Prix that we ran. We had plenty of them, lots of entertainment along the way as well. And Pedro Piquet there in the Shrews racing system will want to get out there for real, but Callum Mylar raised the personal point. How long can we wait before Race Control consider that it's better to run this tomorrow? The pit entry is clear. Marshals have cleared the track. Here, engines fired up in the pit lane, and we're basically focusing on a pretty basic screen in the commentary box, which where we get our messages from Race Control, and we're hoping for one that says 10-minute warning.
stopping, and it's a shame, but we will still get the race tomorrow.
Well, this is the interesting part of the circuit. This is where it has been really bad when we've seen these laps earlier on. And there you go, in the middle part of the lap. It's borderline, but I wouldn't expect race control to send them out there, to be frank, in those conditions. You heard Callum Ilott being sceptical on the radio. We were debating it before we went on air about whether we would get much action today, and at the moment, well, moment in the sun for the medical car.
Yeah, we've not known whether we're coming or going, have we really, Alex? We've thought, oh, we're going to be live, we're not going to be live, we're going to be racing, we're not going to be racing. But these kind of conditions do bring the best races, but just a bit too much rain. Just calm it down a little bit, weather.
So back we come with the medical car. The red flag conditions continuing. Will there be any change? Will we persist with this? Will we need to call it off and run the feature race tomorrow? I think the intention would be to run the feature race. If you're new to Formula 2, we run a longer feature race with Formula 1 style points, then a reverse grid for the top 8 for the sprint race, the second of the weekend. There's your championship leader in 2020, Callum Ilott. Not expecting to go out there, but will he be proved wrong? Still no message from race control, and we are left to wait. Thank you for sticking with us. We really appreciate it. We are desperately hoping to be able to bring you some action at the end of this extended delay.
Can you imagine anything else better you could do with a Saturday afternoon? No. To be honest, no, not really at all. That's alright. Play F1 2020 on your PS4, you'll be brilliant. At least you can control the weather on that. Yeah, and even when it's raining, you don't get wet.
Do you reckon he's tuned in to the fact that we were talking about the virtual world?
It's getting freaky now. He is almost in this commentary box after we referenced the virtual racing that we had. He fancies some more. He was taking part in the virtual F2 earlier in the year, but it's reflecting of where he is in the championship standings. If you need a result today, if you need both races this weekend, you're going to have slightly more angst than that. If you did the job last weekend, which I undoubtedly did, you're chilled, you're relaxed, you're happy if you go racing, you're happy if it gets postponed to tomorrow.
Yeah, you're nice and composed, you've got that momentum, as much as I hate using it. It is, he's got 27 points to his name, a great start to the season, starting third for this race. And yeah, you can just tell he's relaxed, and maybe he's relaxed because he doesn't think we're going to be going out. I think that's what we can pretty much decipher from his team radio. I also love the fact that we have pretty much got a 24/7 live feed to his team radio, so thank you to production for that one. But yeah, the rain is still coming down. It's a shame, but what can you do? We can't put a massive umbrella over the track, although, you know, if they do, then please, I would like some royalties.
Very good. Okay, so the rain coming down. Thanks to the marshals for sticking this out all day. It's the sort of day where you really appreciate those who allow us to go racing. They are dotted around this racetrack. They've been in very early in the morning. The next update on track conditions coming up in about 11 minutes time. There we are. And that's why I talk for a living rather than do a proper job. There we are. This is where those in the TV compound as well are forced to find glamour shots of the rain.
Yeah, I can just imagine. I actually was sat listening to how manic you can get in the TV compound. It's like, find me another rain shot. Find me another rain shot at a different turn. To be fair, we were on F1 TV earlier. We wanted to do an entire lap of how wet it was in each corner. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that for this one. But having a look at Felipe Dragovic, another massive virtual GP fan, yeah, and was really good during the series. And he started this season off pretty well. I'm not saying that the virtual world has caused him to do these amazing performances.
But when you see a driver whose best finish was 6th place in Formula 3 last year, and he rocks up at a championship that is notoriously difficult to learns the tyres, don't worry about it, won the race, thank you very much, good night, which is what he did on the Sunday. Armstrong's getting out of the car, so they don't think the news is going to be good at 1/4 the hour, which is when we will get our update about whether we are continuing with the waiting game whether we might have to wait all the way to Sunday for this feature race, the first of the weekend. And Armstrong out of the car, not the only one down there at the moment. And, well, we questioned when we heard them be back-to-back races around the circuit, what would the difference be? Well, the difference has been pronounced in the conditions. We continue to hope for positive news in just a few moments' time, that we will get back out there and be able to bring you some racing laps today. As it stands, we've not been able to run Porsche qualifying. We've had a delay to Formula 1 qualifying. We had an interrupted, we got over half distance for Formula 3, but we did not manage to get past the three-quarter distance. So it's just been one of those days, it's fair to say.
Yeah, not that I've had many commentary days, so this is very much a baptism of fire.
It's not always like this.
As we wait and continue to wait, so yeah, we've got another 9 minutes, or no, not 9, yeah, 9 minutes or so till our next update. So almost I struggled as well, as you laugh at my maths, but I did smash it. The drivers are still in the car. It's not so great when they're getting out the car. It means that they are pretty certain it's not going to continue. I love how there's dries on that tyre rack. That's hopeful, isn't it?
It's very, very hopeful, but they are prepared for all eventualities. The rain, I'm just desperate for it not to be coming down in the way that it consistently has been. But we have to wait, we will wait. And Artem Markelov is probably the only person happy to see this right now. Didn't take the grid. Of course, if we postpone to tomorrow, it totally resets, and I suspect they will be desperate to use the qualifying results. They'll have to. You can't form a grid, so even if it's a shorter lap, shorter race in terms of laps, we will still use the qualifying results to set the grid. So Yuki Tsunoda knows that eventually when he gets going, he will do so from the front. There's Didier and Bruno. Didier on the left, the technical director, and Bruno Michel, the CEO of Formula 2 and Formula 3. And it's all look left and look right. I think that's Kenny down there, the team principal at HWA, in discussion, soaked through. There are glamorous days in motor racing. This is the definition of it not being one.
Absolutely not. I guess the one small saving grace is the fact that there aren't disappointed motorsport fans at the circuit that have to go home without Formula 2. We're all nice and dry at home, in the warm. Unfortunately, watching the marshals, who again, thanks for their services. It's amazing that they put the time in for days like this. Huge motorsport fans, clearly.
Yeah.
They're not paid for the services that they do. As it looks like, well, shake to the head from the Dams guys. And we wait anxiously to hear. You would imagine, and I'm not saying this for certain, that in a few minutes' time we will hear yes or no, and there won't be another 10-minute delay.
We might have words with race control if there is another 10-minute delay, because the conditions haven't changed too much from what we've seen. That's gravel over the road left by Formula 1 qualifying. That's not been adjusted. We saw plenty troubling the gravel through the course of the weekend, but this news breaking yesterday that it was going to be torrential rain on and off throughout the day, it was taken seriously by FIA race director Michael Massey, alerting the teams up and down the categories that this was a possibility. Some didn't take it as seriously as others, but it has turned out to be a bit of a ruinous forecast. For the time being, though, we're still waiting. That's Roy Nissany, who was in the points last time out with 10th. That's his second point in the championship. Former winner around here, Nobuharu Matsushita, who won with Carlin. That's the Carlin team that are on pole right now with their new Japanese driver in Yuki Tsunoda. He's racing for MP Motorsport, the Dutch team down there. Winners with Felipe Drugovich a week ago. All smiles. Experienced campaigner. His first teammate in the second tier was Stoffel van Doorn, so he's seen a lot at this level as Matsushita. Now, it's one of the strange quirks of this racetrack.
I was about to mention that's the shrine that you were mentioning earlier on F1 TV.
Yeah, I don't know where that's carried over from, but absolutely bizarre quirk of the racetrack, and a racetrack, unfortunately, that is soaked through. And Schwartzman being pushed up the pit lane. Remember, he was struggling to get his car to work the way he wanted it to. You had panic on the team radio. Now, one of the only things, along with the entertainment of Callum Ilott, we can tell you has happened today.
some whistling going on. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but being wheeled through the pit lane is Schwartzman, still in the car, still ever hopeful, just like we are, to get underway in 5 minutes or so. An update on track conditions. I think we could probably give an update on track conditions, and very wet is the terminology for that. But yeah, as you say, it doesn't seem to be letting up at all, which is a massive shame, because I do love a wet race, and I think you do as well, Alex, and hopefully tomorrow doesn't look like it's going to be as treacherous. There's still an opportunity for some rain, which could really make it interesting.
Yeah, still a chance that we'll be dealing with this. I think the good news, don't despair at home. I think the good news is that it would not be as prolonged as we have dealt with, and well, thanks to everyone standing in that pit lane for their hard work. They're getting soaked through, and discussions ongoing, but the drivers were pretty certain early on that it was too wet to go racing. Here's Dragovic's car, the race-winning car, the most recent race winner. Controlled it brilliantly on the hard tyres. In the dry, we would be racing on a step softer compound, including the super soft tyres, and the super soft tyres never last, so that would be plenty of entertainment for us in the dry. And the teammates in conversation there, along with Joe's manager on the left.
Yeah, you mentioned the tyres. That was a really interesting part for Formula 2 at least, is that they had different tyre compounds for this weekend, for the Styrian Grand Prix.
Yeah, unlike Formula 1, they had changed the tyre.
Exactly, so it is a completely different ballgame for the Formula 2 drivers, and as you say, those super soft tyres don't last a huge amount, and last weekend we saw the hard tyres especially taking quite a few laps in order to really switch on. Even though the overcut worked quite well, and that could be completely different for this weekend. So we wouldn't have seen that today if we do race, because they're on the wet weather tyres, but tomorrow it should be a really interesting tyre strategy.
ILOT getting back in the car, regardless of whether we bring you a race or not, they will have to drive around this circuit in some form to go to the gap in the fence at turn 10 and return to the Formula 2 paddock, which you find in the infield here. So that's why he's getting back in the car, because I think even if the news is negative in a few moments time, there's Marino Sato, who took a big step forward in qualifying, managed to get himself from the back to 11th in the order. A driver who has had success before in the Euro Formula Open Championship, a driver who found his way onto the podium for the first time in F2 was Dan Ticktum. Let's hear from Lundgaard now.
It does definitely look like it's raining less now.
Lundgaard hasn't given up hope.
Don't do it to us, surely. All hope was diminishing, and now it's less rain. Let's see what it says here and what the conditions are with the medical car.
Lundgaard due to start this race in 8th position.
This is the part of the track we were mentioning. Are we going to see some waves coming off of the medical car like we've seen? Oh, it looks, there's huge amount of puddles there. The aquaplaning would be ridiculous. Less rain, sure, but not much has moved off the track, it has to be said.
At the end of this lap, the car will report back whether there has been a change in conditions. If the change is positive, we could well be having the 10-minute warning. If the change hasn't existed, then I think we might be packing up and coming back on Sunday. So I'm not going to commentate on the medical car going through the final few corners, but it is a defining moment about whether we're going to see any racing today. If you're still with us, if you've been with us all the way through, we appreciate your company. Let me tell you that. It has been one of those days at the Spielberg circuit. The report will be coming through on the radio now, and Race Control in about 10 seconds time will let us know their verdicts and whether we'll be able to run the feature race today or whether it's rescheduled time and we'll go tomorrow.
Staring at that screen right now, just waiting for that update. I'm sure the drivers are eagerly anticipating it as well, because it's difficult, especially when you think the race isn't going to go ahead. If they then get the 10-minute warning, they have to switch on.
Back into the zone. And that is something that is very difficult to do. The concentration required with these phenomenally powerful cars is enormous, especially on a day like today. That's the Prema team. The team that took Charles Leclerc to the Formula 2 title in the first year of the new era of Formula 2. They're waiting, they're staring at the same screens we are. What's the message going to be? Roy Nissani, another driver, part of the Williams setup. Still in the car, still holding out hope.
The thing I love the most about the graphics is the wet/dry graphic that we get to see.
Tell everyone about this, because it's ridiculous.
So when I first saw that on the screens, I asked, oh, it says wet/dry. I see it says 1. How many does it go to? 1. So it's either 0 for dry or 1 for wet. And it's still currently 1. We know that. We can see it's still raining on your TV screens. And yeah, it's not the most insightful of graphic, but we know it's raining.
That's been the graphic for a very long time in Formula 1. And Formula 2 as well.
It's an on and off switch. It's simple.
It is,
right?
it's a light switch. That's all it is. It says full wet on our screen at the moment, which are all the descriptions that we need. The race control having a bit of a chat about whether we can extend for another 10 minutes. The last update we had was the next update on track conditions was a minute ago. And so the pit lane expectedly waiting to hear whether they have to get back in the zone, click the visor shut, go through the procedure, think about where you're strong, think about where you need to improve. Where it was precarious and where it was strong, you can see teams have returned to the gantry there.
To stare at the same screen we are.
Yeah, they're looking for the answer. Bruno Michel, I imagine, looking for a hot drink and somewhere slightly warmer than where he's standing. It's only 14 degrees out there.
Absolutely. You're saying about switching on, it's so crucial because Markelov, I imagine, didn't just drop it because he was tootling around. He was probably trying to find the grip on that lap, and obviously ending up in the gravel and lots of blushes for him, but these are what they have to do. They have to switch on, they have to know exactly what line works. We've seen crazy lines from Max Verstappen when driving in the wet, and that's what these guys have to do as well, the go-karting line. And these conditions, I mean, goodness me, if all the cars finish in a race like this, it is a miracle.
Certainly would be. On board with Mick Schumacher, still in the car. And he's in conversation with his engineer. Probably good for Mick to have a race, a day to just take a breather after the difficulty of last week and just regroup. He was so downbeat after that qualifying error, after the practice error I should say, that put him on the back foot for qualifying, where he posted the 9th fastest time, his rookie teammate, in 6th position. Here's our pole position man, will he get to take it today? Look there at the new larger wheels that they've had to deal with. That's maybe given some of the rookie drivers in the field an advantage. In the past, tyre know-how for the returnees has counted for so very much. The update is we're waiting for an update. 10 minutes. We will wait.
Only 7 more minutes actually, because it was late. The update was late, and in 7 minutes time